welcome to the CSR Universe Leaders Talk, a platform where we bring you face to face with some of the most inspiring minds driving transformative change in India's development and CSR ecosystem. Today, we delve into a powerful conversation on how private public partnerships are reshaping the way we think about social impact, talking CSR beyond check writing and into the realm of sustainable, scalable change. Joining us is Mr. Amit Patjoshi, CEO of Palladium India, a global impact firm with a legacy of nearly 60 years working at the intersection of development, business, and government. With over 2 decades of experience across global advisory giants like Ernst& Young, KPMG, and PwC, Mr. Amit has played a pivotal role in shaping and implementing high-impact projects in collaboration with institutions like World Bank, FCDO, UNDP, USAID, and state governments across India. Today's interview will explore how Palladium is redefining impact through powerful public-private partnerships, building CSR models that go beyond funding to create lasting, scalable change. From boosting livelihood and skilling youth to driving climate resilience and disaster preparedness, we uncover how bold collaborations rooted in community needs are shaping a new era of inclusive development in India. So let's dive right in, Mr. Patjoshi. It's an absolute pleasure to have you with us on the CSR Universe Leaders Talk.
Thank you, Ashish. It's been a pleasure learning about good work your magazine is doing, and it's again a pleasure to be there in this interview and discuss some of the issues were very close to my heart personally and to Palladium as such.
Thank you, sir. Delighted to have you join us. So my first question, Mr. Patjoshi, let's start by understanding the core of Palladium's vision in India. Operating at the intersection of development, business, and government is both complex and powerful. What would you say drive your India strategy, and how do you define impact in that space?
So, first of all, let me highlight that Palladium is a global impact firm. We provide advices to government, to private, and to communities as such to bring in inclusive solutions, to bring in sustainable solutions and scalable solutions. So we design and deliver solutions so that they are scalable, they have a high impact as the orientation, whether it is in education, whether it is in health, whether it is in disaster management, or for that matter, agri, transport, and so on and so forth. So that's one. So the strategy has always been how exactly we can build an overall ecosystem approach so that beyond any of our engagement we are in, there is a life of the community and the government and the stakeholders beyond our engagement. So that has been always the focus, our strategy where we blend commercial and social growth together, benefiting all the stakeholders. And important stakeholder here is the beneficiaries, the communities, and so on. So we work for the government who design those policies and the private sector who enable them by participation. But yes, inclusive, sustainable, and scalable solution is our key focus.
Wonderful. So India faces complex development challenges from climate and livelihoods to gender and inclusion. How does Palladium approach solving these at scale?
Look, as in not just Palladium, any development sector, there's a focus should be an ecosystem approach, wherein taking all the key stakeholders into account, thinking from a sustainable change as such. And there are so many examples which we have seen elsewhere as well as within Palladium. For example, the recent green bond which we launched with Pimpri-Chinchwad Municipal Corporation, it is trying to integrate climate resilience into governance. It's the first of its kind, Maharashtra's first ever green bond, municipal bond raised, focus on funding cutting edge infrastructure projects. So that itself sees that how things are being integrated for a scalable solutions. Or for that matter, if you look at rural livelihoods, what Honorable PM has highlighted that MSME is the pillar of growth and an important aspect of MSME small businesses. So how we integrate as in from translate from job seekers to job creators is the key at a rural livelihood level, and that's where how the marginal communities are being integrated in the overall ecosystem, supporting and thriving, that they would move from a nano entrepreneurship level to somewhere to the micro level. So to your question, the approach has been always how exactly we build a ecosystem around it, so that all the stakeholders of ecosystem are made independent to run the overall agenda of growth for the overall community, and so on and so forth. So that has been always our strategy as such.
Could you
Right.
share an example of where you have enabled this transition of, particularly small businesses from a nano to a micro level? I want our audiences to hear the actual work that you're doing. So could you just share an example?
Oh, thank you, thank you. That's very close to my heart. The program which we just ended in Orissa, it is a program sponsored by ADB and executed by Palladium and on the aegis of World Skills Center under the Orissa government, wherein the mandate was to identify potential entrepreneurs, train 10,000 of them, and then again filter out and create 1,000 such nano entrepreneurs with at least 25% women. And I'm glad to share that by the middle of the program, we had a participation of 90% women. Then we were asked to reduce it, and finally we ended at 75% women participation, women rural entrepreneurs. And what has happened is that within that overall 2 years of program, which we ended 3-4 months back, we had created a group of 40 odd such market linkage and credit linkage partners who build an overall ecosystem to support this 1,000 odd nano entrepreneurs created. And there has been a significant increase in their customer base, significant increase in their average revenue they're earning. So on an average, they're earning around 50,000 odd revenue, with the highest being 14 lakhs and the lowest being 22,000, from a starting baseline of zero, somewhere having 5,000, 6,000, which has also translated to doubling the household income. They themselves have engaged in employing few other as in local beneficiaries around them. So that is where when we talk about a scalable solutions, as in it's a pilot page, but a solution which is having a more ecosystem thinking, energizing the people around the ground and the partners around ground to create kind of a mass campaign of nano entrepreneurship, which is pillar of MSMEs.
Wow.
Right. Wonderful. Wonderful. So, Mr. Patjoshi, Palladium India works with both government and private sector partners and clients. How do you navigate these partnerships to ensure programs are both inclusive and scalable? What are the technology-led solutions or interventions that you do?
Now, I always feel that working with government is always a boon, because the kind of spread of opportunity governments provide to advisors like us or contributors like us is phenomenal. And I must say that as an advisory firm or a global impact firm, we love to and always want to play as a system integrator, or you can say enabler, bringing in the private, the public, and the government in one platform, enabling policies, enabling designing solutions, and implementing on ground. So that has been always the focus in terms of bringing that trigger. And there are so much such examples which highlight that when government and as in government and private comes together, focus on community, that can see bring a sea change. One of the example is in Orissa, we are mandated under a BMGA program to facilitate FPO strengthening. Now, when sitting at the cups of government, private, and the FPO beneficiaries, facilitating policy level enablers, working in the capacity building of the FPOs, and enabling the private sector to invest in the program, has given so much great results in energizing the overall ecosystem of FPO. For that matter, today, I think last week we touched roughly around 100 metric tons of export directly by FPOs to almost 8 countries, through Bhubaneswar airport and some through Kolkata airport. So that speaks the volume of the kind of level of maturity this technical support unit had brought to a platform wherein the FPOs can directly export, and that can only be possible when we act as an enabler, bringing government and also other partners like NGOs or CBBOs in the IPO ecosystem working in. And this is one example of a program, and there are many such we have done globally as well as in India, being the neutral system integrator, being the enabler among the stakeholders to work with it.
Right. So I understand that you have been bringing technological intervention to bring in scalable solutions when you work together with private sector and both the government agencies. Now, for India to achieve its 2050 vision, it is important to focus on youth unemployment, workforce skilling gaps, and supporting nano livelihoods. Uh, how is your company focused on bringing these gaps, bridging these gaps?
Look, I think when we talk about India as a 2050 solution, 2050, the vision is quite audacious, wherein we have already been the fourth largest economy, aiming to be the third largest economy somewhere by 2030. We are the fastest growing economy of the world and having a demographic advantage. Well, our per capita income is not at par with those countries, but the growth of per capita income since last 1 or 2 decades has been phenomenal. Having said that, that gives a clear opportunity for us to contribute to the society, to the Indian governance system is focusing on the what I highlighted earlier, job creation. In a sense, making job seekers as job creators. So it would be more focused on how exactly create entrepreneurs who would be supporting the overall MSME ecosystems. Second aspect would be that when we are talking about a high growth economy, obviously the bridge of that per capita income has to be addressed. Hence, empowering livelihoods, improving their income, whether it is a farm livelihood by the overall APO ecosystem or the non-farm livelihood. That would be a very interesting intersection of work which we would be aiming at. Third, of course, needless to say that climate is the thing which needs to be addressed yesterday. Hence, with some of the global solutions we have, where we have worked in the intersection of forest, climate, livelihood, gender, inclusiveness, and so on and so forth, we are bringing those solutions, trying to implement certain solution in the existing program we have, whether it is the APO ecosystem program in Orissa, or a value chain transformation program in Northeast, or for that matter, the disaster resilience program in Maharashtra. So these are the three key areas we wish to work, while from a government standpoint, infrastructure, food security, and all others are there. But these are 3 or 4 areas we want to focus in next 3 to 4 years, and then transition to other areas like infrastructure and others.
Wonderful.
You've been speaking of environment and climate resilience. You have experience from other 60 other geographies, actually. So, are you integrating the kind of best practices, knowledge into the Indian system in any way? Are there any examples of that? And how India is also unique in its own way when it comes to the climate challenges it's facing. So, what's your take on that, and how are you leveraging your international expertise in the context of India?
So I must,
Palladium's international expertise.
at the onset, I must say that when you say India is unique in its way, any solutions which work in India would work across the world. That's the beauty of India in terms of the scale at which India operates, whether it is because of the population, because of the diversity, because of the complexity of solutions around. Hence, we are trying to bring in some innovative instruments which we have done globally, and try to replicate, or rather replicate is not the right word, curate to Indian
Curate
context.
to the Indian system, right?
Implement. One of the such example which we are already executing is, we are the technical support unit for Government of Maharashtra for building a disaster resilient Maharashtra, wherein we are infusing the global best practices, the traditional knowledge with the local communities, and so on and so forth, infusing technology like GIS based decision making, and so on, and providing effective decision support system to mitigate the disaster, and so on and so forth. Second, of course, there is another area where definitely want to focus as a part of our forest climate nexus is bringing the best practice which we have done globally, like partnership of forest, like river program globally, where it is focused on creating innovative agroforestry models, innovative blended finance models, which would ensure that the river is a program where we are executing with government of UK, wherein we are creating a 200 odd million blended finance facility focus on rejuvenating their 50 odd national parks. Similarly, partnership for forests is an interesting model for infusing private capital, energizing the communities, which works community as the core for almost Africa, Latin America, and other countries. So these are some of the solutions. While it can be definitely translated to India, curated to Indian context, but looking at the complexity of India, those solutions definitely has a place in an Indian context, and we're trying to um, bring those areas to India with one bottom line is that when you talk about climate, forest, agro, as in if you take care of the community, the rest is taken care of. When if you can't say forest by anything else other than taking care of the community, so those ethos, those instruments that are we are trying to bring in here and implement.
Wonderful. So, can you talk about the kind of leadership and talent you believe uh, is needed in probably the development sector today? How is your company nurturing it?
Look, as in from a development sector standpoint, the first thing goes is that it has to be always action on the ground. We cannot develop the world sitting in a room where we only brainstorm, create policy, which is very, very important. But also we have to take that policy, actualize on ground. So that's where comes the ability to adapt and be agile on ground. So whether it is talent or leadership in the development sector, they need to focus on how exactly you translate a process or a policy on ground to operationalize on ground, which means that it definitely has to be adaptable to the stakeholders will be utilizing on the ground. For example, when I as in I was just referring to this APO program in Orissa, where we have exported 1,000 odd metric ton this season directly from APO to different locations. I was asking my team that look, as in it's been almost so many years, there are many advisory firms, NGOs working. Why if export was so much successful this season? Because it's not just that, and the answer was it's not just that it was not there. We try to empower the APOs at ground. Whatever policies were already there at the government level, we try to convince the government that this needs to be tweaked in so that the private sector can be part of it. For example, when we started last season export, as in our per day export was roughly around 75 odd sorry, it was 70 odd tons, but the policy allows from Bhubaneswar airport to limit to 1 metric ton. So we realize that there is a rigor in all those APOs to export more. So requested government to change that policy. Now the government changed to 1.5 metric tons per day. So making government also realize what is the need of the ground. And for example, yes, the exports were there, but the exports were not market ready. So the APO need to be trained how you can make your exports market ready. So hence we went back, took help of private sectors and say, hey, why don't you train those APOs that they need to make their horticulture produce market ready by proper sorting and grading. So this grading and so on. So whatever policy we design, whether it is in agri sector or for that matter the disaster management experience I'm highlighting, where we recently have there are extensive landslides in the Western Ghats, which happened last year, and there was unfortunate last to last year, and there was unfortunate casualties. When we were part of it, we designed the landslide mitigation plan, but this time we wanted that the landslide mitigation plan has to be grounds up, capturing the traditional knowledge of the communities into a GIS based decadal mapping. And then certain initiatives came in implementing that on ground. And this year, unfortunate event happened, and there was zero life lost in the as in location at Sindhudurg. So it is all about the talent should be more adaptable, agile, and focus on operationalizing things. As in when you say as in there is always the wish to be the perfect, but when it comes to development sector, you need to, even though there is not a perfect solution, you have to go ahead and implement it and see the outcomes coming in, and then learn in the course and try to course correct. That's where probably all the talent in the development sector should be focused on.
Right. Right. So, Amit, you have worked with state government. You have worked with almost the top consultancy agencies in India, right? So, what are the key currently? What are some of the key problems that you think is the priority for organizations like you to solve?
So, as I already highlighted in the previous question, for me or for the organization and government has also emphasized the key problem is now skilling and employment and entrepreneurship. We need to upskill our resource strength. If we are aiming, we are the fastest growing economy of the world, aiming to be the third largest. We need to improve our per capita substantially, which has happened in last 1 decade. There has been a substantial growth on that. To augment that journey, there has to be skilling across the board, whether it is right at MSME level, whether it is right at education, or for that matter construction skilling, or for that matter any such trade. And now with the infusion of AI and technology, even it is more pertinent that our resources would be skilled with new technology so that they can take advantage of the AI or a drone technology or so on and so forth. So skilling is one very important part. And of course, while we focus on skilling, it should not only be focused on employment, it should also be focused on self-employment, entrepreneurship, because by that way we can create more job creators so that they can employ for other people, whether it is a nano entrepreneur level or a micro or a medium level. So the focus should be on entrepreneurship policies and implementation solutions around it. So that's one key area definitely every the government is focusing. The second key area is climate, forest, and disaster management, wherein of course there is a extensive focus of government of India in moving the needle of from relief and rehabilitation to focus on preparedness and mitigation and disaster, making India climate ready, whether it is in health infrastructure, making climate resilient health infrastructure, or for that matter climate resilient agri ecosystem. That's one area. And the SIFT has also moved that how I strengthen my land restoration plan, ecosystem restoration in the forest, and so on. So that the second aspect, which is the core focus. The third aspect, while we take care of skilling, entrepreneurship, while we take care of the climate aspect, the third aspect, which is we are renowned as a food ball of the world, with probably a significant amount of food processing happening in India, contributing significantly to the world. We are at the cusp of exporting significant amount of nature-based products also. So hence, food security and farmers' welfare is the third pillar, which we feel it would be very important going forward, because we are moving from a agri society to agri business society, wherein we are not just exporting surplus but also would aim at processing those surplus and giving the value addition directly to our farmers, who are the backbone of our country. So these are the three areas we feel. However, we are extremely keen on transition to other areas, but our first priority is to focus on farmer food security, skilling, entrepreneurship, employment as such, and climate disaster agenda. So these are the three prime agenda we are focusing on.
Right. I understand these three prime areas, but as you have already worked with government, you have experience working, and there has been lots of evolution in how the government agencies and government mechanism also works, right? So, where do you see currently? What are the top challenges that maybe private sector people must be facing or are facing while working with government agencies towards solving these and focusing and solving these problems that you just listed, priorities and problems?
Well, as in, let me address from a private sector standpoint, if they are contributing from a CSR perspective, the corporate social responsibility part of it, that needs to be extremely outcome focused. It should not be seen as a compliance perspective. And from a government standpoint, they also need to recognize private sector as a key stakeholder in any ecosystem. And I'm sure wherever government and private has been key stakeholder in any ecosystem, that ecosystem has expanded phenomenally. For example, the production link incentive government is giving to promote private sector in certain areas itself a welcome move for the private sector to take a step further, or for that matter, various PPP programs in agri ecosystem or in other ecosystems. There is always a welcome move to connect private and public sector, and I can say that globally these instruments are very relevant. The Rever program also is highlighting we have been mandated to catalyze private sector investment roughly around 200 million as in pound to rejuvenate 50 odd national park. Now, what is the interest of the private sector coming and investing 200 million? There are carbon credits, there are nature-based solutions which can be designed, which would actually protect the nature, save the communities, make them independent, as well as take care of the interest of the private sector and so on. So hence, while there are challenges, there would be policy impediments and so on and so forth. But the silver lining of that is that both there is always a welcome move by government to infuse private sector into the overall development agenda of the government, and there is a equal great response private sector is making in. Hence, the responsibility lies on organizations like us, and there are so many organizations like us to design such solutions, which has, I would say, rather a co-creation capability, wherein the government and private co-create solutions to achieve a desired result or outcome. So, to answer your question, yes, there are challenges, but I am sure there are so much on the plate for both the entities, and there are so many examples the government of India has demonstrated. With I love Mr. Nitin Gadkari's the way he has transformed the national highways, collaborating with private sectors with a very unique PPP model. So there are so many examples India has seen, much more than what global has seen. But yes, it needs to be at this moment needs to co-create and design solutions where we can see all the stakeholders in one platform and taking it forward.
Right, right. So, very rightly pointed out, from collaboration to co-creation is I think, the way forward. But do you think there is acceptance from government side towards these theories of co-creation?
There is, and let me just give again. I love to pick up examples from her own projects. The APO Orissa project, when we started, there was no dedicated APO policy by any state. So government of Orissa
Mhm.
implemented a policy and earmarked roughly around $185 million as a budgetary support. Now with that movement from government, because look, as in private sector also, I'm talking about, let's say, from an agri ecosystem, the private sector also need a sustainable supply chain of their horticulture product, because they need to take process and do their business. They needed some policy enabler, and by that welcome move by government of Orissa, private sector invested roughly around $86 million in terms of whether in procurement, in terms of infrastructure development, or for that matter building the capacity of our beneficiaries. And that this is one such example. And let me give you a example from overseas. As in, we were mandated to revive the communities in the region of Peru, the Amazon, the Colombia region, which is very well known for cocaine and or other illicit products, to revive that region from a forestry aspect. Then we realize it is not the problem of those farmers that they are doing cocaine, because the ecosystem is like that. The market requires high level of integration, and their livelihoods depend on that. Hence, we oriented a behavioral change of the farmers to move from cocaine to cocoa. Cocoa is a interesting product in terms of it helps in afforestation. So our problem is solved, that it is afforestation is taken care of. But a poor farmer would not be investing for afforestation. Somebody has to pay them right money. So
Correct.
and a subsidy based business might work for 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 year, but it would not work further. So
Mm.
we help them build a right ecosystem of building quality cocoa, made the market aware about the quality cocoa. To a Peru cocoa, which was 20th variety of the world, is the number one variety of the world by the time we ended the project. Hence, the market demand increased. So in a sense, my farmers' livelihood also increased. The price relation of the same cocoa increased. So there was no need to move to cocaine, which is a major reason for deforestation in the Amazon. So that was one example how, and for that matter, the private sector also invested to improving the capability, the supply chain, training, quality assurance part which the farmer needed. So it is a win-win sum game in the overall ecosystem. And these are some of the, and I'm sure it's not the examples I'm quoting from the programs which you have done. If you look at the ecosystem here in India, there are so many examples many a peer organization would have done in this aspect.
Wonderful.
Right.
I think it's such a wonderful example of how, to link an initiative with actual market demand, and where there's, I mean, you come to a point where you're not needed in that geography, right? So that's, I think, the ultimate goal, and it's wonderful.
Right.
So,
So,
yeah.
Amit ji, how can CSR organizations and philanthropic foundations can collaborate with your organization to drive impact and scalable solution? With examples, if you can just share so that those who are watching this video would understand what kind of impact and scale you will bring to kind of solutions that they are looking forward to.
From that, I have used respect for this CSR and philanthropic foundation who are driving agenda specific solutions, whether it is for gender, whether it is for forest bamboo based ecosystem. Let's say IKEA is doing good amount of work on bamboo based ecosystem. There are players who are working on coffee value chain. There are players who are working on gender inclusiveness, livelihood, rural livelihoods. So while we do that, we are definitely for profit organization, but for profit global impact firm working at the nexus of commercial and social growth. We definitely can work directly with all those CSR organizations in designing such scalable solution. One challenge I see when we work, one challenge I see with CSR based solutions is it needs to be focused on scalability and making it large volume. Coming from an Indian context, it has to be at scale. It cannot run on a pilot mode for years together. Yes, initial aspects can be pilot, but it has to run to scale. So any solutions would be happy to collaborate with any philanthropic foundation, maybe combining couple of philanthropic foundation, creating innovative instruments like blended facility finance facility, which will be focused on designing uh, designing and implementing scalable solution. One such example, yes, the livelihood entrepreneurship program we did in Orissa has seen tremendous success with, as I said, with roughly around 2x household income increase with a extensive own participation. We have been receiving interest from certain foundations that within their control group of beneficiaries, they want to implement it. We would be happy to see that if there is a focus on tribal or there is a focus on women, we can scale it further to implement such solutions, or for that matter, working in the APO ecosystem in a very specific value chain. We are getting response from the foundations that we want to work in a coffee value chain, or we want to work in a bamboo value chain, or for that matter, there are foundations who have done fantastic work in infusing technology, solar and technology to the existing ecosystem. So with the reach what Palladium has in terms of the pharma ecosystem, or in terms of the nano entrepreneurship ecosystem, or for that matter livelihood overall ecosystem, we can help them infuse those solutions. And yes, the more it is outcome or out focus, and the more it is a scalable solution, we would be happy to contribute. And that, because that has been, we have been uh, one key catalyst in creating initiatives and implementing them to a scale across the globe. So happy to collaborate with those foundations, deliberate on solutions which we have experimented globally or executed globally across 90 odd countries we operate and in India, and create solutions for them.
Thank you. Thank you, Amit ji. Thank you for sharing your valuable insights with our audience. And it was lovely, absolutely wonderful talking to you.
Thank you, Asis. Thank you, Shweta, for hosting me. Look forward to working with CSI Universe together.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.